So I have been living here in Sweden for about 9 months, and I would say I got to know the country and the people quite a bit better, definitely before I moved here. But there are always things which surprise me, and in this video I came across some bits and bobs I didn't know about Sweden. Some I came across by accident and some others mentioned, and then I looked into it a little bit more. So in this video today I want to talk about a few more things I heard about Sweden and which quite surprised me. And quickly an introduction, if you're new to my channel, I'm Yuli, I'm originally from Germany and I moved here from London, the UK with my British partner and my 3-year-old daughter. So yeah, in the past 10 years we actually lived in London and then we moved to Sweden just outside of Stockholm. I use this channel to talk about my experiences, my adventures here in Sweden. I'm very excited still after 9 months to live here and to report back to you how life in Sweden is for me and my family. So if you're interested in following along, then feel free to subscribe to my channel. Okay, let's start with the first kind of topic, and I haven't really talked about this at all on this channel, and I think I came across it more and more because people mentioned it in the comments as well, but it is about Sweden and music. I had no idea how big, Sweden is involved in the music industry, and by that I mean how many artists actually Sweden produced over the past years and decades, and also how much interested Swedes are in music. I actually read somewhere that Swedish music is, Sweden's biggest exports. And of course, the first band I will mention here, everyone in this world probably knows about it, so that part is not a secret. But ABBA is probably still the biggest band of all time, and they're obviously Swedish. So yeah, if you hear ABBA, you definitely think about Sweden straight away. And I also like actually the band ABBA, such a great music. It's just happy music, you can dance to it. So, it's old music, but I'm still a fan for sure. But yeah, there are some other artists, and some of them I knew, but I didn't know they were Swedish, and some I didn't, but I listened to some of them, and I'm still very impressed. Sweden's definitely producing amazing artists. So one of them is Sarah Larsson. I wasn't very familiar with her, but I listened to her, and it's actually not bad. Avicii, I did hear about him, and he's not amongst us anymore. So that's definitely sad when I heard the news. I think it was like about 2 or 3 years ago. But I was a big fan. Like Avicii is kind of my music. Still my music, but I would say I definitely was more into it when I was younger. Swedish House Mafia, didn't know about them, listened to them, liked them quite. And then we also have Alesso. Robin, yes, very familiar, and like. And then a very Swedish name, I guess, Måns Zelmerlöw. Definitely never have heard of him, but I listened to some of the music he produces and I really liked it. And then one artist I really liked is Luca Lee. I follow Rivers, of course, but I didn't know it was Swedish, so I learned something new. So do let me know in the comments below if you know any of those artists or all of them and which artists you actually like. But yeah, and then some older kind of music artists are Roxette, Akasa and Ace of Base. Ace of Base, I didn't know they were Swedish, so learned something new again. And then additionally, there are also like songwriters and producers of Swedish origins, so that's also something I didn't know, and I'm learning slowly about Sweden. So yeah, who knew that Sweden is so much into music and producing so many great artists despite being a relatively small country, or at least not that many inhabitants. Of course, do let me know also if you have any other Swedish artists who are your favorite. Maybe don't post links because most of the time YouTube will kind of not let any comments through with links, But do let me know the artist names and maybe any kind of songs they had, and I will look them up and also listen to them. And then the second topic is really not related to the first one, but I came across it randomly, and when I read it, I was very impressed that basically Sweden was the first country to ban smacking. It is very random. Did you know about it? I mean, if you are Swedish, you maybe knew about it, I can imagine. It's part of your history, I guess. From 1979, it was actually banned, by law to smack children. And then after this, more countries followed and, banned smacking. That was a very short kind of insight, a short little fact I just came across and thought I'd share it with you. And let's move on to the next one. And I feel the next one you don't know, not even Swedish people. I can't remember how I really came across this statistic, but Sweden is the loneliest country in the world. Okay, and that was basically based on statistics from 2019. Yeah, when I read it, I had to look into it a little bit more. So I found a few kind of sources, and I will definitely leave all the links down below so you can read a little bit into it. Because I'm sure if you hear this, you are wondering what kind of statistics are these? Who did these statistics? What does it even mean? Because according to Statistics Brain, 47% of Swedish households are currently occupied by only one person. So okay, we're talking about loneliness. There's obviously the feeling of feeling lonely, or there is the loneliness of living alone. I'm actually talking more about the latter. It was basically just a fact that more people live alone, but more like, 47% actually live by themselves. And one reason is actually that you can't afford to live alone. If you just think about the UK, especially London, it's almost impossible to live by yourself, to afford the rent. And here in Sweden, it's so much more affordable. At least in 2019, before the pandemic. But then I also looked into it and found a bit like, what about the feeling of loneliness? And I found another report, a 2019 study found that 59% of Swedes feel alone often or sometimes, and 1/3 of them think it's a problem. So there are actually statistics about the feeling of loneliness as well, and it does exist in Sweden, and it's also quite high compared to other countries. And the same study found that 24% of Swedes would like to have more friends, while 1 in 10 say they don't have a single close friend. So did you know that about Sweden? We're talking about statistics. Down in the description you will find the links. You can read a little bit more yourself. I can read a little bit more about it. It, for example, says the survey shows that loneliness is most common among the younger part of the population, so between 18 and 34 years, where the figure is as high as 78%. The perceived loneliness is also greater in cities than in the countryside. In the big cities, 69% feel lonely, while the same figure in rural areas is 47%. As a conclusion, 59% feel lonely often or sometimes. 30% of these feel that it is a problem. 10% state that they do not have a single close friend. 10%, it's quite high. 63% have never borrowed anything from their neighbor, like tools or flour or something like that. 16% do not know the name of single neighbor. Do you know the name of your neighbor? And 24% would like more friends. So yeah, I kind of talk about this a little bit because I guess it's also a little bit interesting for foreigners, especially in that area. There are some foreigners who complain exactly about that as well, but it's also interesting that some Swedes think similar. Okay, that I was very surprised, and I saw the statistics again a few years back. Let me know what you think about those statistics. Then another statistic which maybe was a bit, I don't know if I found it because I found the lonely one, but I also saw statistics, and I don't know if you knew that Sweden can be a depressing country. I mean, this is so controversial too, the Nordics being, and Sweden is amongst them, being one of the happiest places on earth, feeling wise, people feel happy. And then you find these statistics online. I do believe statistics, but I'm also sometimes a little bit cautious about who is actually doing the the questionnaires, you know, who's actually doing those studies. So even if I found out these, I'm not immediately saying, oh yes, you know, Sweden is a lonely country and Sweden is a depressing country. But I just wanted to present you a little bit with what I found and share it with you, and also want to know what you think about it. Basically, Sweden had the 5th highest rate of antidepressant use in OECD countries, so Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, behind Iceland, Portugal, Canada and Australia, also in 2019. It is the 5th highest rate, but also all these countries are very random. You have Iceland, maybe similar to Sweden, but then you have sunny Portugal, European, Canada. Okay, Canada maybe has some parts which I come in a second to talk about the weather, you know, and the darkness, but then also Australia. Totally different again. I couldn't really see a connection, but it was just interesting, so I'm sharing this with you. Over 10% of the population use some form of antidepressant. Whilst that is not wrong at all, it was a surprise for me to actually read about it. And then what I just hinted is that actually the weather could be one reason. You know, having months and months of kind of like winter, and then especially the darkness, which varies quite a bit in Sweden. So the further up north you go, the darker it can get. Not the darker, but the longer it can be dark actually. And that could physically impact you, and it's called seasonal affective disorder, SAD. And I talked a little bit about it, that I have heard about it before, and that I was very conscious. I mean, Stockholm is, I guess, a little bit more in the middle or south middle of Sweden, and we just experienced our first winter. And it was not as bad as I really expected it, but I guess it's something you have to be conscious about. Here it says researchers at Uppsala University have estimated that around 8% of the population experiences winter SAD. But then something which I thought was very, very surprising. So we have SAD as a reason why, you know, Sweden is a depressing country, but then also income inequality was listed as one of the main reasons for people suffering in the Nordic region. And you think like, oh my God, you know, Sweden is, you know, the country where equality is kind of shouted about or like expressed, or you know, even present, one of the bigger countries where it is actually equal. Maybe it does make sense that people are very frustrated about it, so they want to shout more about it. Doesn't mean that it is equal already, the louder you are. But yeah, people really care about equality, and it is not here yet. So yeah, despite Sweden ranking as one of the most equal countries in the world, income inequality is still prevalent. So let me read a little bit about the statistics. The issue of youth mental health receives particular focus in the report. There are high at risk of depression rates among young adults in several member states, notably Sweden, 41% at risk. And then there's also Estonia and Malta. The EU average is 14%. So 41% Sweden, 14% the EU average. The report also emphasizes that gender is an important factor in depression. Young women were more likely to suffer from depressive symptoms in most member states, with significant gender gaps recorded in Denmark, Germany, Ireland and Sweden. So yeah, this report is basically about Europe, but Sweden stood out several times. That's why I thought it was quite interesting. So I wanted to mention it here and also see what you think about it. Again, all the links are down in the description below, so you can read a little bit yourself and then share your thoughts with me down in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching till the end. I really appreciate your time, and I hope you enjoyed this video as well. And I hope I will see you in my next video. Until then, have a great day and stay safe. Hey there.